So we've been properly bashing Trump a lot. There's one thing Trump is trying to do that I couldn't call it admirable because of the way he seems to be going about it, but he is following through with his campaign promise to end the Ukraine proxy war. At the same time, also demanding in imperialist fashion to be able to pillage Ukraine more than it was already being pillaged by the IMF, World Bank, BlackRock, and European states. Aaron, give us an update on what's happening there, because I know you're closing in on a book about the Ukraine proxy war. And so you've been following this more closely than I have.
It's still unclear what exactly Trump's policy is. And I'm not even sure he himself has figured that out. But what we can see publicly is that the Trump administration is rhetorically shifting the U.S. government line. At the UN the other day, they voted with Russia for a measure marking the 3 years of Russia's invasion and basically calling for a peace deal. And they voted against a Ukrainian-authored measure that condemned Russia for the invasion. And top Trump officials like Steve Witkoff and Pete Hegseth have gone on TV and basically said that Russia was provoked. And Steve Witkoff has even talked about having a peace deal that was based on the Istanbul Accords, which was the deal that was brokered by Ukrainians and Russians in the spring of 2022, right after Russia invaded, but which the US and UK blocked. And so even acknowledging the Istanbul Accords is an achievement in itself, because the corporate media, and actually a lot of progressive media too, has totally ignored the Istanbul Accords because it showed that Russia was willing to negotiate, which undermines the propaganda line that you can't negotiate with Russia. And they've also ignored it because the US blocked the Istanbul deal from going through. And so therefore, and so they had to ignore that blockage by the US to justify funneling tens of billions of more dollars into Ukraine proxy war. So the Trump administration talking about Russia being provoked, talking about a new peace deal based in Istanbul, that's a huge rhetorical shift. Policy-wise, though, Trump is still forcing Ukraine to sign a mineral deal, which apparently Zelensky will do at the White House on Friday, if that goes ahead, in which, as you said, the U.S. will continue to pillage Ukraine. And Trump's been a little inconsistent about what that actually means. Is he going to offer, is he going to continue giving Ukraine weapons? He actually hasn't ruled that out yet. What he has ruled out is NATO for Ukraine. And he's also ruled out giving Ukraine a security guarantee, which is what Zelensky really, really wants. And Zelensky initially said he wouldn't sign a deal without a security guarantee. Now he is signing the deal. And all this deal promises him is that the U.S. will help Ukraine towards getting a security guarantee, which means in Trump's eyes, we'll help you get one from Europe and not from us, which is a huge embarrassment for Zelensky because that's what he's basically staked his political future on. And what's funny about all this is that Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, he's now in the US, and he's basically begging Trump for something. And what he wants from Trump is for Trump to back up a European-led peacekeeping force in Ukraine, and basically to promise that if that European peacekeeping force comes under attack by Russia, that Trump and the US will back them up. But Trump so far is not doing that. But to get that from Trump, Keir Starmer, in typical British lapdog fashion, is humiliating himself. So watch Keir Starmer after, initially it was pretty obvious he was against Trump's candidacy. He was critical of Trump before the election. Watch Keir Starmer today sucking up to Trump at the White House.
For a very long time now, the closest alliance, I think, of any two countries when it comes to prosperity and security. And I know that together we will strengthen that even further. And on issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that we can have a peace deal. And we want to work with you to make sure.
So people like Keir Starmer and the UK intelligence were freaking out about the possibility of Trump's election. They were involved in working against it. And certainly they were fear-mongering about what this would mean for Ukraine. And now he has to go to Trump and say, thank you for changing the conversation and making peace a possibility. Which, by the way, is a tacit admission that before, the prevailing policy led by Biden, which Keir Starmer was following, was against peace. So he has to suck up to Trump because now he's desperate for Trump to sign on to a peace deal, and therefore has to tell him that it's Trump who is making peace possible.
Thank you for, yeah. I mean, he was advised to do that. You know, you can't oppose as the UK, as the junior partner of US empire. What army do you have to oppose Russia with if the US completely pulls out? Trump's not going to respond very positively.
Well, Trump basically asked, on that point, Trump pointed out that the UK is toothless militarily against Russia at their meeting at the White House.
Between our two countries. That is why this is the greatest alliance for prosperity and security I think the world has ever seen. Whenever necessary, we absolutely backed each other up, and that's at the
Could you take on Russia by yourselves?
Well,
all right, one or two more.
He says, "Can you take on Russia by yourself?" And he's mocking him because he knows he can't. He knows he can, and this underscores that throughout this whole, through all the talk about Europe standing up to Russia and the Ukrainian agency, this has always been about the U.S. And now that the U.S. is possibly changing its policy, Keir Starmer has to go hat in hand begging Trump to back him up. And I don't know which way Trump is going to go, but if the rhetoric is any guide, talking about making peace with Russia, talking about how the fact that this could have been avoided, Trump's repeatedly criticized Zelensky for not making a peace deal earlier. If we're going by that, then yeah, Trump is not going to give them what they need, and this will be a huge humiliation. But again, with Trump, you never know because he's erratic. He said positive things about diplomacy in his first term and then did the opposite. He's been bragging recently about how much he armed Ukraine as opposed to Obama. So you never know. But certainly to get what they want, to continue the proxy war, to continue warmongering, people like Keir Starmer have to humiliate themselves even more.